Hello, and welcome. I'm Jack Sariego. I'm the Vice President for Perioperative Services at Pennsylvania Hospital. I'm also a proud veteran of the United States Air Force and Operation Enduring Freedom. We're delighted that you've chosen to spend some time with us today as we celebrate Veterans Day and honor those among us who have served through the years. As the nation's first chartered hospital, Pennsylvania Hospital has a very long, very rich historic tradition. And that includes involvement in virtually every military conflict since the hospital's founding in 1751. We also have a very extensive archival collection that speaks to that history, and one of our goals is to share just a bit of that with you today. But our other goal, the far more important one, is to celebrate and honor those members of our hospital and health system community, past and present, who have served in the armed forces. We're extremely proud of our employee veterans, and it's to them that we dedicate this program today. Now, I'd like to introduce you to Stacy Peoples. Stacy is curator and lead archivist here at Pennsylvania Hospital. She has a wealth of knowledge to share with you, and she will be your tour guide for this whirlwind tour today. Stacy?
Thank you, Dr. Sariego. The Pennsylvania Hospital has a long tradition of serving wounded soldiers, dating all the way back to the French and Indian War. The archives has a collection of many records, including those from the American Revolution, the War of 1812, and the Civil War. In this example of the Board of Manager meeting minutes for the American Revolution, in 1777, Dr. Thomas Bond decided that he would pay for all of the medical treatment for soldiers who were coming to the Pennsylvania Hospital. Dr. Bond and his son, also Dr. Thomas Bond, were instrumental in forming the medical department for the Continental Army. In the center, we have an example of a letter from 1814. This was part of the War of 1812. Samuel Coates, who at that time was the president of the Board of Managers here at the hospital, received a letter from an agent from the British asking if we would reduce our rate, because apparently the Newark Hospital did not charge any prisoners of war who were taken care of there. And in this final volume, we have our Civil War collection. When the hospital admitted patients from the American Revolution, we did not have any formal agreement with the government. However, by the time of the American Civil War, the hospital managers decided it would be a good idea that we had an arrangement with the government to cover the cost of all of the soldiers who were coming to Pennsylvania Hospital. 24 individual soldiers were sent to Pennsylvania Hospital because we were seen as a center for surgical excellence. In total, we had over 100 soldiers who were cared for at Pennsylvania Hospital, who also served in the Civil War. During our earliest period, most of the records that we have are going to be manuscript material, correspondence, Board of Manager meeting minute records. But as we move into the 20th century, many of those who served donated items to the Pennsylvania Hospital archives. As an example here, we have our drum from the Base 10 Hospital that was actually used and played by Dr. John Rogers. In addition, we have a helmet here from Helen McClellan. Now, the Pennsylvania Hospital primarily staffed the Base 10 Hospital in the Treport, France. All of the top doctors and nurses who served here at Pennsylvania Hospital went abroad to serve in the Treport. Helen McClellan is very important to our story. Now, she was a graduate of the Pennsylvania Hospital School of Nursing, and eventually she becomes director of nursing. But during World War I, she and her tent mate in the middle of the night came under attack. Helen was able to save both herself and her tent mate from any harm. Additionally, there were many physicians who served during World War I, and they came back to the hospital and wrote some of their memoirs, either about Pennsylvania Hospital itself or their experience during World War I. Artifacts are something that we love to see here in the archives. Many of those were donated by individuals who served during World War I at the Base 10 Hospital. Examples include these medical kits, and they would have been used by either nurses or physicians. During World War II, Pennsylvania Hospital doctors and nurses served at the 52nd Evacuation Hospital in New Caledonia, which was in the Pacific Theater. Now, this was very different from our Base 10 hospital in Le Treport, France. During the 52nd evacuation, one of the major comments that you hear from the nurses serving during this time, in their letters, they write to Helen McClellan, who at this point is director of nursing at the Pennsylvania Hospital. They write about the fact that they are able to wear pants. And that was a huge, huge accomplishment for them. That they were able to have pockets, to have more freedom of mobility, and it just made them feel like their job was so much easier. Many of the doctors and nurses who served at the 52nd Evacuation Hospital, similar to World War I, wrote memoirs of their time. And we have examples here of those individuals who discuss their time both in New Caledonia as well as here at the Pennsylvania Hospital. For the 52nd evacuation, they had identification bracelets, and those identification bracelets had the seal of the Good Samaritan. And the Good Samaritan was the seal of the Pennsylvania Hospital from the very beginning. Dr. Bond and Ben Franklin were asked by the Board of Managers to come up with an image, right? So early branding for the hospital. And that image that they chose was of the Good Samaritan using the line, "Take care of him, and I will repay thee." So service runs very deep within the history of Pennsylvania Hospital. We have so much history here at Pennsylvania Hospital that we would love to share more of these stories with you. Perhaps at a future time, we'll be able to expand on these in a different program.
Thanks, Stacy. Thanks as always for sharing your knowledge and your enthusiasm for our military history. You know, I think it's worth mentioning that although we've been speaking of the past, our employees' commitment to service is not just a thing of the past. In fact, we have many current hospital and health system employees who have served and are continuing to serve. It's a long tradition at Pennsylvania Hospital and Penn Medicine that continues, and we're very thankful for that. Well, we hope that you've all enjoyed this very brief tour through a very small slice of our history. We're understandably proud of that history, but we're even more proud of those members of our team who lived it, our employee veterans. As we mentioned earlier, we've dedicated this program to them, and it is to them, to my fellow veterans, that I speak now when I say on behalf of Stacy, myself, and the entire Pennsylvania Hospital and Penn Medicine team, we wish you a happy Veterans Day. We thank you for your service and your sacrifice. And most importantly, we thank you for your ongoing, selfless commitment and devotion to this great nation. Have a wonderful day.